Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the big perks of speed work or dynamic effort work that doesn't always get discussed enough. Again, it's another one of these points where people try to discredit the training method without stopping to look at what all it brings to the table practically, even if they disagree with the primary premise of it. Because the simple fact of the matter is, it does work. It absolutely works. Been proven to work over and over and over and over with athletes. We know that it works if it's done correctly. There's oftentimes should be debates about why is it working. Maybe it works for reasons other than what the people who promote it think. And what you end up finding is that there's a whole host of reasons that it's actually beneficial. And when you understand that, we can set aside some of the counter arguments. And a big one is essentially learning to set up, finding your grooves, finding your leverages. People say, well, what do you mean? For me, like benching has been my worst lift. I am way better at squatting and deadlifting than I am at benching. All right, best bench I've hit on camera in the last year has been 335. I am not a particularly good bencher. Now, it's probably higher now because of all the other work I've done. But compare that to like my squat and my deadlift. My squat and deadlift for my age and weight and everything are up there in the elite category. Deadlift definitely as a squat is very, very close. Okay. Benching is not. I need to put like another 40 pounds on my bench, maybe 50. And we are going to do that. It's just going to take time. But the perfect example, look at the benching. As I've messed around with it and messed with different grips and bar paths and everything else, because we do a lot of different stuff with conjugate, the thing that I'm finding more and more consistently is that I am always slower with a wide grip bench. Just like when I tested the other day, I've kind of said the same thing happens when we start testing maxes out. We start to find things, just like I had found, even though I've been trying to do tons and tons of work for my wide grip benching, what is it that we found? That when I had to do dead pen benching, literally I could break 20 pounds more off the pen with a close grip than a wide grip. 20 more pounds. And historically, a lot of benchers feel that they are stronger with a wide grip. Although I do think people need to look at some of the best benches in the world. I think you'd be surprised what some of their grips look like, particularly relative to their frame size. Some of these guys benching 700 plus pounds raw, I don't know, starting to bring some of that into question, isn't it? But what is it that I found? That I was much stronger with a closer grip. And I decided to do that based upon my speed work. Because on my speed work, I notice I am way faster. And my speed benching is not particularly fast, mind you. It's not particularly fast. And I'm not a particularly good bencher. It's not my genetic gifts. I have to work for it. But we are working for it. And what is it that we find? When I go narrower and narrower, I get faster. Normally when we do speed work, we get slower as we get near the end of our sets, if we're not careful. I would get faster and faster when I ran the standard wave of wide, medium, close. Okay. So the wave before here, and who knows, this will probably be up deep into the next wave, happened. I'm like, well, let me do nothing but close gripping. Not only did it feel faster, but it started helping me find my groove better. I started realizing more and more, no matter what I've done to change leverages and build stuff, I'm faster when I'm lower on the chest. Actually, when I take it all the way down to the stomach, I get the best pop and speed out of the bottom on the speed work. Okay? We learn that because if we get through 9 sets of speed benching and you hit different points and different bar paths and different movements, you start finding which ones you just feel the most power through and the best leverages. Speed work starts to teach you these things about yourself. Now people are like, well, why didn't you learn that before? Because, well, I've been doing a bunch of wide grip speed work. But now as we're coming through and messing with the close grip, what are we finding? Finding my ideal leverages. And they match very much with what I find with the max work. Max work's teaching me the same thing. What else are we getting? Practicing setups. right? You learn to get tight. Same thing, all this speed squatting, you learn to pull yourself up under a bar. You learn how to walk it out. This is what's allowing me to get wider and wider. My 552 squat was pretty much done as an Olympic squat, by the way, for those who watched it. I've been working on getting the really wide stance on the boxes. By doing the speed work, we can learn to walk out and get those setups and to get into those positions and practice in those positions. And it teaches us to drive through. So look at those speed squats, like the ones I've been linking through here from that day versus some of my previous squatting and speed squats. It teaches us to find our levers, because those are pretty fast. We're getting explosive there. And what is it I'm finding? By doing the speed squats, I'm learning to, again, walk out wider and wider. Now I'm over at the edges of the rack on those. Edge of my foot is up against the whole edge of that rack at the bottom. And what is it you're seeing me do? Watch what happens with my hips. Watch what happens with my hip rotation, everything else. I'm learning to walk out and stay tight and to sit back correctly, but you're also seeing me learn to use more hip and hamstring as I go. The longer I do these, month after month after month, the longer I do these, we're learning to do these things, right? Notice how much different that looks from, say, my mid 500s high bar squats, like Olympic squats, because these are high bar also, stance. Notice how much more hip involvement and hip rotation and everything is involved. Learning to power through. And it teaches you to find your positions that let you power through. I mean, we can argue all that we want about whether the classic lifts are speed strength lifts or not. Okay, fine. But when we learn to find our different positions and body positions that lets us power through, that carries over to everything. Right? It carries over to everything. I'm over here doing all these deficit speed pulls. Teaches you to get into that tight position over and over and over. Let's say you do 10 of these. That's 10 setups to where I'm forced to get into a tighter position to explode. What does that do for our deadlift? What does that do for the bottom of your deadlift? Because, everyone wants to joke who looks at speed work, and they'll say things like, oh, well, the change of the bands, that makes you just go to the top. Really, that's not what the research shows. Speed work teaches you to get a faster rate of rate coding through the early part of a lift. Okay? This makes you more powerful out of the bottom. What are you guys talking about, the top? The chains and bands are just there because you're accelerating so fast that we want to hit those and continue to force acceleration so that we don't decelerate as quickly. It has nothing to do with the lockout strength on speed. Are you kidding? We're only using like 75 to 85% of our max at the lockout. We're not building a lockout strength with a heavy weight. These are sub-maximal lockouts. The bands and the chains are there to force you to continue to accelerate and to slow down the rate of deceleration. The speed work itself enhances acceleration and tightness and everything out of the bottom. It teaches you how to explode faster earlier in the movement. And even guys like Beardsley have noted data on that. Yeah, that does seem to be true. He even argues that may be the biggest perk of it from a speed strength perspective, is that it teaches you how to hit upper threshold fibers several inches sooner in a lift. Okay. And he doesn't even like speed work. He's a researcher. Teaches you to get more explosive out of the bottom, the start. And it teaches us to practice the setup. Same thing. I mean, I'm even doing this, like this case, it's like 7 triples, learning to get better at doing these snatch grip hang cleans. Some of my dynamic work. High set, low rep training teaches you to set up and learn technique. Okay, it teaches us how to move. It teaches us how to find our most explosive positions on everything. Okay, It's what it teaches us to do, to find our most explosive positions. And if you can find the most explosive positions and joint angles and setups for your body on a few different lifts, what does that transfer to? It transfers to everything. It teaches you to just learn to be more explosive. People have this idea that speed, strength, and explosiveness is just completely about the muscle fiber. No, it's about learning how to be more explosive. There's an intramuscular coordination component that no one wants to talk about, and we practice it by doing very high numbers of sets with this stuff. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.